I'm Adam C and welcome to a massive auction here with over 150 cars. This is Iconic Auctioneers and this auction takes place tomorrow as you're watching it on Saturday. We've got a Subaru worth as much as an R34 GTR. We've got cars owned by famous people and famous cars themselves. A cheap Lambo that's been modified. Let's take a look at some of my favourites. So welcome to Stoneleigh Park, which is where this auction will be taking place. We're at Race Retro, which is on all weekend, and there is such a variety of cars. I've just bumped into Harry Metcalf. He's done his own walk around, but with the likes of this 488 Challenge car and this GR Yaris, I'm going to give it my shot at showing you my particular favourites. And starting off with this Yaris, this is the first famously owned car because this Yaris was owned by Rowan Atkinson himself. He is there directly from Rowan Atkinson CBE. So the Toyota Yaris was a performance legend, and going by his car history, it's no surprise that he bought one of these. They originally planned to have about 2,000 of these made with lightweight carbon fibre roof, and the bonnet, door skins and tailgate are aluminium too. Its 1.6 litre unit up front has 257 brake horsepower, and this one with its 6-speed manual also has the circuit pack. We can have a look inside. So the circuit pack was an extra £3,500. It has these 18-inch BBS forged wheels, retuned suspension, mechanical front and rear torsion diffs, and red brake calipers. So if you ever see one with the red brake calipers with the GR logo on it, you know it's been spec'd with the circuit pack. But even though this car has been owned by Rowan himself in the last 3 years, the estimate is between 25 to 30, which is about right for a car of this spec with this mileage. Now, some of the reason I'm doing a lot of auction videos recently is because the Japanese and JDM market is thriving at the moment, and they are becoming desirable classics, as demonstrated by this GT pack Honda S2000. It's only done just above 16,000 miles, this car, and has always been maintained by Honda themselves. And you can see here 20 to 25,000 pounds for a Honda S2000 with its factory hardtop. But as well as Japanese cars, we have absolute favourites of mine. This is a Di Tommaso Pantera GT5, meaning it's got those amazing flared arches, such an incredible road presence. They were designed by Lamborghini's engineer, but have an American heart. The Ford 351 Cleveland engine with over 300 horsepower in the 80s. Now this one is particularly rare. It is one of 12 right-hand drive examples of the GT5. So the GT5 upgrade was introduced in 1980 with that large spoiler and the fiberglass flared arches, not by Di Tommaso themselves, but a spin-off from the GT5 racing program. It was backed by Di Tommaso and has provided this absolute beauty that you see in front of you. Honestly, I absolutely adore these. The estimate for this car is between 150 and 180,000 pounds, which I think is amazing value for a right-hand drive car in the UK. We've got a bit of a JDM and modified lineup, but before we go into detail of those, we have this Lancia Delta, this HF Integrale Evo 2. This is the final edition, Edizione Finale. Obviously very easy to work out what that means. One of just 250 editions in this red with the yellow and the blue stripes, which was made for the Japanese market because they were going to be the biggest customers for this car. So this car was actually delivered new to Japan despite it being left-hand drive. It's only done 15,000 miles from new with service records from Japan. It was imported to the UK in 2017, and the estimate for this Delta is between 135 to 155,000 pounds. Now, as I said, there are a few Japanese cars. There are quite a few Evos here. This one in particular is an Evo 5. This one, the GSR, which was another JDM car. So this has been imported from Japan. It was made for the Japanese domestic market. It's a road-focused variant with the higher level of comfort and equipment than the stripped-out RS models. For this one, with its factory wind deflectors, has everything from factory, and it is the most immaculate Evo, or Evo 5, that the auctioneers have seen. It is spotless inside and out, upside and down. Underneath is just as clean as this beautiful white paintwork. So a car that's never been modified other than a catback exhaust system. The estimate is between £25,000 to £30,000. Next door is one of a few Escort Cosworths. This one finished in a colour close to my heart, Ford Imperial Blue. This is the colour that my Cobra has. Now we'll go into the different specs of different Cosworths later on with another example. This one has the Luxe package. It's a big spec with opening rear quarter windows, electronically heated mirrors, a heated windscreen with heated washer jets, electric sunroof and windows, and so much more, even an optional CD player, which I still use, and the estimate is between £100,000 and £120,000. But welcome to the first Subaru of the collection, this being a Hawkeye, but not only that, it is the Spec C Type RAR. That's the final edition, the lightweight analog focused STI of the Hawkeye generation, limited to just 300 examples, again, for the JDM market. It's got no spoiler on the back, which gives it a really clean look, especially white on white. Now the estimate is between £38,000 to £48,000. This has been sourced directly from Japan in 2016, 320 horsepower from its 2-litre EJ20, Recaro bucket seats, STI branded Momo steering wheel as well. It's almost a bit of a homologation special, and apparently RAR means record attempt racing. There's a few other suggestions online as to what it could mean, but that is what Iconic has told me. Now it's time for our next Lancia Delta Integrale, this one from 1988. This car has been built almost entirely out of carbon fibre and has over 500 horsepower. It's a road and track monster and was built by an ex-Ferrari Formula 1 mechanic from the days of Michael Schumacher, so you just know it's going to be good. Have a look, you've got the Abarth Assetto Corsa sticker on the roll cage inside with its bucket seats. More than 500 horsepower, 693 Newton meters of torque. Look at those carbon fibre wing mirrors, so angular and tiny. I love these spoilers they have on the back. It's an absolute vertical air brake. It's got 28 psi of boost. It's got strengthened drive shafts as a result, a reinforced gearbox, revised power distribution as well, so that it handles as well as it goes, with enormous vented Brembo discs all around. I mean, those rear calipers look like the front caliper of a car that you'd expect. And of course, all finished off with these massive 17-inch magnesium wheels that don't look quite as big in person than they do in photos. But you've got the front wings, the rear wings, the door cards, the bonnet, the roof, they're all carbon fibre, and the estimate for this car is between £80,000 to £100,000 for this fully bespoke and custom Lancia Delta. Now at the beginning I mentioned a Subaru that was worth apparently as much as an R34 GTR, and conveniently they have placed them both next to each other. Now these two cars have exactly the same estimate at auction. So we start off with the 22B Subaru Impreza STI. This is a matching numbers UK imported car. In 1999 this came to the UK with just 47,000 miles from new with a long-term owner, and it's just had an extensive recommissioning ready for its next owner. So this was built to celebrate the Marque's 40th anniversary and its third straight WRC manufacturer's title, with flared front and rear arches. You can see that flaring all the way down the car. It's an extra 80 millimeters on the original width of the car. So it wasn't a homologation car as such, but more of a road replica of the cars that they were so successful with. Still with its EJ22 2.2 litre, but 22B doesn't apparently refer to the engine despite that. It's to do with the 555 branding on their WRC car. It's number 22 in the hexa code on computers and stuff. I mean, it was all the rage at that time, like information technology was on the rise, so that's what they named it after. And then the B stands for the Bilstein coilovers fitted to these cars as well. Now have a think how much you think that 22B could be worth, especially considering it's the same estimation as a fresh import R34 GTR. So this hasn't yet been seen in the UK, it hasn't got number plates. It's the M spec, which was based on the V spec 2, a limited edition version. I think 366 were made. It's a more luxury variant of their V Spec 2. This one finished in sparkling silver, and it is sparkling, it is gleaming under the lights. fantastic condition. So for these two cars, the same estimate, remember it's tomorrow on the Saturday at 1 p.m. I believe the auction starts. They're both estimated to fetch between 120 and 150,000 pounds. And just to reiterate that, that is the same on the 22B Subaru Impreza STI. And next we come to another Mitsubishi Evo, this one a 6. So this Evo is an Evo RS that I mentioned earlier on, and the estimate is between 30 to 35,000 pounds for this car. But this is not the Evo 6 to watch, that one is. So welcome to the Tommy Mäkinen edition Evo 6. The Evo 6 was such a successful model for Mitsubishi. They sold 6,000 of them in the first 3 days of its launch, and then later made this Tommy Mäkinen edition to celebrate Tommy Mäkinen's 4 consecutive WRC drivers titles from 96 to 99. This one's actually quite rare because it's finished in blue. They could have been red as well, or white, or black, or silver. So a few colour differences, but they've all got graphics to suggest exactly what they are showing, including the Tommy Mäkinen seats. But it's not just aesthetics, it's got titanium turbochargers, uprated lowered suspension, a different exhaust, new ECU, redesigned front bumper, and 17-inch WRC Enkei alloy wheels. This one's also got the optional fog lights that you can see compared to the other ones, and the estimation for this car is between 40 to 50,000 pounds. But as well as the road cars, there is a vast race car collection here with 3 Renault 5s on display. And I think it'd be rude not to discuss the elephant in the room with its prime location. You've got the Maxi Turbo over here, and this is a Renault 5 Turbo Super Production. They actually made 6 of these in 1985 for the French Super Touring Championship, but for the 1987 series, 3 of them were made into this Super Production model. So a much heavier preparation for race, quicker cars, more successful. This was actually at the Supercar Driver Secret Meet last year at Silverstone, and the estimation for this legendary car is over 200,000 pounds, between 200 and 250. Now let's go on to the main bulk of the collection. We've got a series of Fords. There are quite a few Fords as ever in these auctions, including this Mark I Ford Capri, and alongside those the Vauxhall Forenza Droop Snoot and a collection of C2 Corvettes. So we've got this beautiful red Stingray Coupe and a black hardtop convertible behind it with the soft top on the yellow example as well, and neighbouring them a pair of Guards Red 996s. You can see the difference between the Gen 1 996 and the later Gen 2. These are both GT3s, although that one is a club sport, but this has obviously the Boxster front end on it. So that's where they started with the 996, and then it matured into the 996 Gen 2 as seen here on this club sport, with an estimation between 60 and 70,000 pounds. It is not the only Guards Red Porsche 911 here. There is quite a large collection, some very special cars from the 356 all the way through the 911 range. And another 996 that I really wanted to show you is this, which I think looks gorgeous. Apparently the only one featured in this colour, Horizon Blue Metallic. Unique to this car, with heat electric seats, a thicker leather trimmed steering wheel, leather central column, and auto speed control as well, has been kept in pristine condition. The colour combination is what makes this car outstanding. It's a triple treat code car, coded 09991, meaning it's got bespoke customization from Porsche when it was made. And despite it being a collector grade car, look, 25 to 30 for the 996 Gen 2 Carrera 4S. I think rather undervalued for a car of this specification. I know I've got a Porsche, but I'm not as big of a Porsche guy as I am a TVR guy. This is one of the later TVR Griffiths, which was an absolute legend for TVR. They made the Griffith first, and then they made the Chimera as a more usable version of the Griffith, not quite as raw. So this is one of the final ones, the SE Special Edition, the 500, so it's the 5 litre, but they only made 100 special edition cars, and the purple paintwork is amazing. I mean, TVR's paintwork is always beautiful from, I don't know, about 50 steps back, but this one doesn't look too bad up close either. It's got aftermarket front lights. They're kind of Tuscan style inside. They've got the factory lenses, but the SE actually featured revised rear lights from factory. So these are actually the factory rear lights, I love the number plate, for the special edition that's on the badge there. And what they also got was a slightly revised dashboard from the TVR Chimera, so the dials are not quite as intricately placed on the Griffith. I mean, the entire dashboard shape is still Griffith. The Chimera is not quite as bubbly as that, but they took it from the Chimera form, this special edition Griffith. This one's got aftermarket BBS style rims. I've been told it does actually have its original wheels as well. It's build number 6 of the 500 SE range, and I love the wooden steering wheel as well. Got the grey with purple interior there. Estimate between 35 to 45,000 pounds. That is definitely in the upper range of TVR Griffith prices, but with that exhaust note, that beautiful Rover V8 5-litre engine, I think this is one to look out for. And so is this. As you can see by the dust that has been preserved, it is going through this fairly modern trend of barn finds. So this did live in a barn, and because everyone loves a barn find, they have kept it in its slightly dusty condition. So that is why you're not seeing it as clean as you'd expect. But it wasn't really lost in the barn, it was barn stored for the last 5 years, and it does need recommissioning. So it could be a good example for a bargain Ferrari 360 Spider. It's been started occasionally, but not for the last 2 years, so might need a little bit of work to get it running. 400 horsepower, 0-60 in 4.4 seconds, top speed of 186. This car has done 28,000 miles. It's a UK car, right-hand drive, and 6-speed manual. So let's have a look at the 30 to 40,000 pounds. One of the cheapest 360 Spiders out there. And you can kind of call it a barn find because it's a bit dusty and did live in a barn for 5 years, of course. It's not the only barn find here, but before we find the next one, let's have a look at this Ford Sapphire Sierra Cosworth. So this one is the Rouse Sport, and you can tell by the body kit that Rouse gave it. We've got badging down the side here saying Rouse Sport, and around the rear we've got more evidence of the edition Rouse Sport. So it's the 304R is the code name that they gave this car. Rouse Sport were meant to commission 100 of these to be made as the ultimate road-going example of the Sapphire Cosworth, but only 78 were ever made. And the estimation for this car is between 30 to 35,000 pounds for perhaps the ultimate Sapphire Cosworth. It's 4-wheel drive as well, not rear. But perhaps showing people's fondness for the rear-wheel drive ones, this one's estimate is even more, 32 to 42,000 pounds. This isn't a Rouse Sport edition, but it is rear-wheel drive. However, it has done half as many miles as the Rouse Sport, and probably the better buy. Rear-wheel drive Cosworths have always been the favourite. And in front of the Vanquish, the 635 CSI, we've got some boxy 80s creations, including a very early DeLorean DMC-12. And the way to tell the early ones is the fuel filler cap is here, but they later deemed it too expensive to produce up there, so they moved them for the later examples. This one is finished in beautiful condition. It's actually had the bodywork rebrushed by apparently the only place in the UK that is able to do that. It's had 2.5 years spent on it, recommissioning the car inside and out. The wheels have been refurbished. Look how many spokes there are. I'm not going to count them because I'm not a lunatic. And then you can see the leather interior inside, manual gearbox. It is rare to come by an automatic, but I don't know why you'd want one. And the estimate only 30 to 35,000 pounds. And that is next door to another car of similar proportions, the Lamborghini Urraco that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. These were effectively the baby Lambo before the Gallardo was christened. So they came after the Miura, but instead of its V12, it's got a V8 fitted in the middle. But I mentioned this was no standard Lamborghini Urraco, and the owner felt that it was a bit tame visually compared to his wife's Lotus Esprit, so he had it commissioned to look more like the Lamborghini silhouette. So that meant flared arches all the way around, and even a refreshed front end, so a lower valance on it, a custom grille. You've got these new 3-piece wheels and lowered suspension all round as well. So it's got a more vicious look to it, much like the Silhouette. A better silhouette, you could say. But as the Galaxy 500 has just started up, this has just had almost 11,000 Australian dollars spent on it before it arrived in the UK. Unfortunately, the new owner was unable to see it by the time it arrived because he has passed away. But the estimate on this car is just 45 to 50,000 pounds. A bargain, a Lamborghini, modified, but all done. Engine work, gearbox has been done, ready for its new owner in the UK. Now, I need to keep myself away from the memorabilia because I love all that. You've got some miniature vehicles onto the next section with the next Escort RS Cosworth. Now, I mentioned the last one we looked at was a Lux spec. This has the Motorsport package, but does not demand quite as much, only 50 to 60,000 pounds, whereas the other one, they were guessing six figures. So that's perhaps as a result of it being the Motorsport package, so it's very stripped out and more ready for being race prepared. So it's got no electric windows, no sunroof, no air conditioning, and no radio inside either. But I'm being drawn towards the Audi Quattro short wheelbase replica. So this is not an original Quattro SWB. This started life as an Audi 90 from 1985. So they created this full-blown replica by shortening it by 330 millimeters, that's 33 centimeters, and it was carried out by J&L Auto Technics in Cheshire. So it's got a 20-valve Audi turbo engine producing 380 horsepower with its 5-speed Yaris Quattro box, performance flywheel and clutch as well. So it's got all the tools for get up and go and looks the part as well. But the car that's distracted me in front of it is this rather understated Audi A6 all-road Quattro. It's the 3-litre diesel and was owned by His Majesty the King. And honestly, that sounds like I'm making it up, but this was used by the King and owned by the royal family. He had it between January 2015 and October 2016, so before he actually became king, back when he was Prince Charles. But it's been recently decommissioned, so they've removed all the lights. There's only minor kind of suspect details as to its history, but if you know, you know. So it would have had lights behind the front grille so people know to move out the way. This was actually seen in public on the 3rd of May 2015. Now, funnily enough, the 3rd of May is the date that Adam Seafest is this year, and there's tickets in the video's description. Who knows how many of these cars could turn up at my show in Hertfordshire at the County Showground this year, but it was seen on the 3rd of May in 2015 with Charles and Camilla at Kensington Palace visiting the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, amongst some other times as well. Some of its features include that walnut steering wheel and gear shifter combo. It's also got soft close doors. It's actually a very well spec'd car, as you would expect. It's got Bose surround system, double glazing, 4-zone climate control, heated front and rear seats, and rear window blinds as well. His Majesty does know his cars, and this is quite a sensible option for him, I think. And the estimate for His Majesty's car, you can see, is between 20 and 30,000 pounds. The odometer reading is 115,000 miles. It has been used by an owner since His Majesty, the King, but you could literally be driving home in the King's car tomorrow. Neighbouring the King's car, we've got the Mercedes SL63, in fact a pair of Mercedes SLs with the Bristol and another Lamborghini, this one not quite as affordable as the one before. So this was actually in production alongside the Miura and was marketed above the Miura. So it was more expensive than the Lamborghini Miura as their luxury GT car. It's got a 3.9 litre V12 with 365 horsepower, 290 foot-pounds of torque. It's been recommissioned recently in 2015. Although I said it was less affordable than Urraco earlier, it's still only 70 to 80,000 as the estimate when considering the Miura's values are rising, 7 figures. A car of similar era, which was actually more than the Miura when they were new, I think is still great value. But we've still got a few more cars to look at before we reach perhaps the flagship collection of this auction. Even cars like this Porsche 912. Now the 912, even though it's more than a 911, it was not more. This has the 4-cylinder engine with only 90 horsepower from the Porsche 356. This particular car has been resprayed in slate grey as a homage to the car that Steve McQueen drove in Le Mans. At the start of the film, he drove a slate grey 911, not a 912, but this 912 is a hark back to that, estimate between 38 to 45,000 pounds. But our next section features 3 of the elephants in the room that we'll come on to just after this rare Mini. So this car has only covered 60 miles from new. So from the year 2000, this is the Mini Cooper Sport, of which only 2,200 examples were made as their penultimate edition before the BMW Mini came in. It was kept at the back of a double-length garage, as you can imagine, so another car in front of it, and it was kept on axle stands, so off the ground to prevent flat spotting, and it just was never driven. Perhaps due to the double-length garage, that's why I didn't really want to go for a double-length when I was looking at mine, and as a result, it's only covered 60 miles, so 30 to 40,000 pounds for this time warp Mini Cooper Sport from the year 2000. Now we go from the A series of the Mini Cooper to the B series of this very recognisable MGB GT, the start of the collection of personal cars from Richard Hammond. So obviously this car featured in his last ever episode of Top Gear. It was due to be broadcast in 2015 and they'd already recorded 2 films for 2 more episodes, but due to the fracas, which is a word I've never heard before or since Jeremy Clarkson's little thing that happened, they couldn't continue the series, so eventually they made it a special episode with both films, and this featured in the first film out of the 2. Now interestingly, I think James and Richard, they both presented the actual studio part of it. They said that the first film was not as good as the one that came after, which was due to off-roaders and various cars, but for me, the film that this featured in has a personal ring to it, not only because this is a 1972 MGB GT, which I own, but because in the episode they took it to Castle Combe for their Japanese show, which has since moved to Silverstone. So all of this was filmed in 2014. The plan was to show how you can have cheap motoring with classic cars, and of course Richard came with this 72 MGB GT. Clarkson drove a Fiat 124 Spider and May had a Peugeot 304 S. All of them styled by Pininfarina. Because obviously when the GT came in, MG went to Pininfarina of all stylists to create this rear end. They made various options themselves to how to make a hardtop out of their Roadster, but it was actually Pininfarina's design that remained on the GT. Obviously the Peugeot and the Alfa were definitely Pininfarina stylings as well, so all beautiful classic cars. And after modifying their cars, they took it to Castle Combe for a Japanese car show and drove them around the circuit with various cars, which is something that I see all the time. I'm at all of Castle Combe's own events this year, so again, very close to my heart. And on the dyno run, even though they'd had a bit of work done to the B series, it showed it was down on power. So originally this would be 95 horsepower, but it produced 58.8 horsepower on the mobile dyno. They then concluded the episode at what they called the Rendcomb Wings and Wheels Show, alongside cars owned by Nick Mason and a few classics that I used to look after myself on a previous job as well. But I did my research and there's no such thing as the Rendcomb Wings and Wheels Show. It was called the Breitling Heroes Air Show in 2014. I think because they can't say Breitling on the BBC, they just called it the Rendcomb Wings and Wheels Show because it was hosted at Rendcomb Airport. Anyway, that's the history of the MGB. Obviously Hammond kept Oliver, but the presenters very rarely keep their cars from Top Gear episodes. So for Richards to keep the MGB, it must have had something in his heart. Obviously his last ever episode on Top Gear could be something to do with that, and now he is selling it. So as you can see on the car, the smallest cog, which is Hammond's garage and TV program, they have converted it into this classic racer. So it was on Series 2 of Richard Hammond's workshop that Rickwood Motorsport built the engine. It's now been dynoed at 131 brake horsepower, so over double what it was on the dyno at Castle Combe, almost triple. So quite a fast MGB in general, and then it had 4 seasons of racing between 2022 and 2025, so it has competed, and I don't think it's been crashed. It's recently been race prepared again, included a head skim and a new head gasket, which is something that my MGB needs, and it's just been modelled by Corgi for their Vanguard range. And I don't think the model is inside the car, but the sale comes complete with a signed model 1:43 scale of this car. So values of MGBs, I mean, a concourse version of this year, like my one, if it worked, would be about 10 to 15, but maybe due to its prominence, a road-going racer owned by Hammond, 15 to 20,000 pounds. And as I said, tomorrow you can own this car. They're all owned by him, including this BMW Mini Cooper S that he bought with his daughter Izzy Hammond for her to compete in race series. So whilst Richard calls his Opel Kadett Oliver, this car has been affectionately named Stanley. They purchased it for £1,500 and £20,000 in parts has been inputted into this car. It's got over 300 horsepower and the estimate was between £10,000 to £15,000, again for a stripped out race car. Owned by Richard Hammond, the Hammond household, raced by Izzy herself. It's still got the 06 number plates on it, so the MGB and the mini race car, both similar, smallest colours and Napa branding, obviously built alongside Drive Tribe. Now this car is a more personal car from Hammond's collection. I'd first like to draw your attention to the medallion that's been recently refitted to the car. It's a gentleman on skis. So Richard bought this. This is a Riley 14.6 Alpine Tourer. He bought it in 2019 and has owned and driven it as one of his personal collections himself. So Riley first started out making 4-cylinder models, but this was one of their first cars to have their new 6-cylinder variant of that engine with more than 9 horsepower. That's what the 4-cylinders had. I'm not sure what the 6-cylinder ones did have. They made fewer than 200 of these, the Alpine Tourers, so it's hard to give a valuation of this car, but again, maybe due to its ownership of Richard Hammond. Obviously these are all being sold directly from Hammond himself. The estimate is between £18,000 to £24,000 for his Riley with the skier medallion. You've got this blue paintwork, very brave, red wheels matching the red 4-seater interior. But whilst we're down here, let's have a little look at another Cosworth, this Ford Sierra RS Cosworth. Over 5,000 of these were built, and then an extra 500 of the RS 500s. This one isn't an RS 500, but originally sold in Austria, has only done 11,000 miles. Left-hand drive, so only 50 to 60,000 pounds is the estimate for this. But I mentioned there was a proper barn find in this collection. This is a Jensen FF, not an Interceptor as I originally thought when I first saw it, and is a little bit more viably a barn find, a bit more rusty, and the dirt looks a bit more genuine. So it's closely related to the Interceptor, often mistaken as one. They are 4-wheel drives. They've got a different chassis design with a longer wheelbase, and to distinguish them, they've got 2 vents here rather than just one. And I think there's a bonnet scoop that's slightly different on the FF versus the Interceptor, but it's got its Chrysler 6.2 litre V8 with 330 horsepower and then only a 3-speed automatic gearbox. This is one of 195 examples and remains in fully original condition, other than its condition. Wow, have a look at this. It's had 30 years spent in a country house. It still remains the property of its owner. The daughter of him has inherited it after he passed away, and now it's going through auction, but it's spent 30 years inside a house. You can see these windows have popped open slightly. I don't want to risk opening doors or touching it too much because you never know what might fall apart. We want to keep it in the condition it is now. Estimate between £30,000 to £35,000 for such a project. I know they are low number cars, but people love barn finds and projects, and you can either create it back to its original condition or maybe make it your own. The front fascia is also slightly different on the FF versus the Interceptor. We've got the chrome bumpers here that are peeling off. It's quite hard to find a place that will do re-chroming due to UK legislations and laws. The materials are actually quite hard and expensive to find, and the skills you don't really come across anymore. That could be growing. It looks like cress. That is actually quite remarkable to see the first proper barn find of the collection. Yes, I know the 360 did actually live in a barn, whereas this did not. It lived in a country house, but you can see its condition is what people, barn find collectors, come to look for when planning their next project. It's an Escort Cosworth race car, that's making that sound in the distance. Got another Ford to look at here. This is the Hertz Racing Ford Shelby Mustang GT350. So these were commissioned by Hertz to be for their rentals customers. They commissioned 100 of them, but in the end 1,000 were produced. 800 of them were in this legendary black and gold color scheme. These were available at over 50 airport locations across the US, and the price to hire the Mustang was just $17 per day. So not all of them have survived as a result, but especially in these colors have created quite a legend. It was originally automatic, but has been upgraded to the manual gearbox, the 4-speed top loader unit. Estimate for this car is maybe a little bit more than you think, due to the legend of these cars. I don't know if it's Hertz or Hearts, because we call it Hertfordshire, but I think it's Hertz. But £140,000 is the starting estimate for this GT350H. But I'll be honest, I haven't paid that much attention to the race cars in here. To be fair, they don't create as much of a buzz as the road-going cars, despite the fact that a lot of them have number plates due to homologation and rules of racing. You know, rally cars were expected to drive on the road. This Austin Healey Sprite has been turned into this bit of a beast, an ARK Sprite twin cam, FIA approved car, 25 to 30,000 pounds. Ford Anglia, Triumph 2000. We'll have a little walk through because there's a few treats. There's an MGA there, Porsche 928, another Sierra, and another Subaru as well. I think this is the Hawkeye. At the end there is an R35 GTR that we're going to have a look at, but first I'm going to go to another TVR, this one the Grantura Mark II. So this is an X-Works lightweight FIA car. It was one of just 4 factory development cars because TVR wanted to maybe go into Le Mans, which they eventually did to boost their motorsport status. However, factory records of this car aren't very common to find because there was a factory fire decades ago and they lost quite a few pieces of history about their cars. This has recently competed in pre-64 GT racing across Europe and the Goodwood members meeting, said to be one of the quickest early Granturas competing today, and has now benefited from a fresh race engine as well by Jay Whitehurst. It's a Climax engine. Next door is another very famous car. Now this is a DAM 4100, a DAM Metro 6R4. So David Appleby works MG Metro 6R4s in the 80s, so he knew his cars, he built up the knowledge, but he felt they deserved revised aero and a bit of an update. So with a partner he created DAM and the 4100 using the then new Rover 100 body. So you can, I mean, the rear end is similar, but the front end is very different to your original Metro 6R4s. Now this car, A14 Lou, is very recognizable. It's been at various race meetings and shows. It was their first prototype and has been used and maintained to a high standard throughout its life. The estimate on this is 100 to 120,000 pounds. And if you're wondering about the TVR Grantura, 50 to 60,000 for that tiny TVR. But welcome to this absolute presence of the R35 GTR race car. Now this is the Nürburgring 24-hour class winner at its first time at the Nürburgring 24-hour. Any GTR's first time at the Nürburgring 24-hour, and it won its class. We have a Gran Turismo inspired livery. This car featured in Gran Turismo and was being driven by the creator of Gran Turismo as well. It's been fully rebuilt in 2016 with a new Nismo GT3 engine, including their GT3 turbochargers and exhaust as well, and it's only sustained minor damage throughout its history of racing. And the estimate for this legendary race car is between 150 to 200,000 pounds, perhaps one of the most valuable race cars in this haul, the Nissan GTR R35. Now I think we've got a couple more race cars just down here before we conclude. Now as the show is getting ready for the weekend, that's where the bulk of the show is, we've got a Nismo GT4 370Z. This was the first GT4 370Z that they made. It's been in various different colours, yellow, red, and now this livery, and finalists of the PlayStation GT Academy were chosen to race this car with 420 horsepower, 1,250 kilograms, a Quaife 6-speed pneumatic paddle shift sequential gearbox, and the estimate is between 50 to 60,000 pounds. And its neighbour is this mad Chevy Camaro RS. This was a complete bespoke build commissioned by EBC Brakes for Power Nation TV, which is America's most watched how-to automotive YouTube channel. And what makes this even crazier, apparently this is fully UK road registered. That is a 7.2 litre small block Chevrolet race engine with over 700 horsepower from its full speed NASCAR dog box. Obviously they took a small block engine and they've bored it out to its 7.2 litre capacity. That is incredible to see. So it definitely, I just don't believe this is UK registered. I'm sure UK road registered. That's just unbelievable. So it was a no expense spared project in the US. Build began in 2024, so fairly recently. They stripped the shell back to bare metal. They fabricated the bodywork, providing stiffening all around the roll cage pickup points to allow this roll cage to be used so it can be raced properly and thoroughly. It's got a custom firewall, transmission tunnels custom, rear bulkhead, all been refreshed and refurbished, front subframe with extra strengthening, and even look, new nose cone on the front. It's just had everything done to it. Carbon fibre arches, front and rear, carbon fibre door skins, this matte black paintwork. You can see where they've been riveted on these arches. 40 years of EBC Brakes, and this is what they do, and now it's in the UK. I'm surprised EBC don't have this themselves, because we know the UK team. Look at that side pipe. Oh my goodness gracious. I can't believe this is road legal in the UK. Wow, estimate between 35 to 40. I mean, if it was my money and I had the money, maybe this. But for me, that was pretty much that at the Iconic Auctioneers auction at Race Retro. So as I drop this video, this auction will go live and begin at 1 o'clock tomorrow. So that's on the Saturday. There are so many lots, over 150 cars, and all of these motorbikes over there as well. It's going to be a long auction. You've got the memorabilia. So let me know in the comments, do you want me to return here on the weekend and tell you the values that some of these cars reached? So you've got Richard Hammond's collection. There was a Ford Escort Mark II that he bought, restored, sold at an auction, and then the person that bought it from the auction decided he didn't want to re-register it to the UK because it was an Isle of Man car. So Richard bought it back off him. He's since redone the interior again because they did it in cream. He didn't like the cream, so he's gone back to black interior. It's a dark blue RS 2000 Mark II Escort. That's been withdrawn, so I was going to talk about that one as well as the other three down there, but we didn't see that. There's also a Mustang in the other hall over there from the recent Conjuring film. That's also in the auction, so quite a good variety. The King's Audi A6 All-Road Quattro, and a lot of JDM. So I'm interested to see how much the Subaru made, the one that's the same price as the R34 GTR, and quite a few others. So let me know in the comments what you think about these videos. You want me to do more auctions? I'm loving seeing all these car collections. It's like a car show, but I can kind of plan what's going to be here because I know. But keep an eye out online or at Race Retro to see what these cars make. I hope you enjoyed today's video, but for now, thanks for watching.